All right, lads and lasses, and good day, mates. Welcome to another episode of the Tune Under podcast. I'm Lee. I'm joined by Streaky Greeky, Dimi, to review the Arsenal game that finished this morning for us in Australia. It was unfortunately Arsenal 1, Newcastle United nout. Apologies in advance if this is a bit of a laboured podcast. The kickoff was at 1:30 a.m. It didn't finish till 3:30, of course, plus extras. And so we didn't get to bed till 4, and it's a Monday morning. So we're all a little bit dusty at the minute. We'll do our best to get through this one, Timmy. To be honest with you, there wasn't a great deal to talk about in the end. A pretty narrow defeat. We haven't damaged the GD too much, which could still prove to be vital for us. But coming into this game, why don't you give us an idea of what your thoughts were, expectations maybe, and then how do you feel afterwards?
Yeah, so unlike me, I wasn't very confident going into this game. I had a bad feeling about it. I don't know what it was, but maybe it was because every other team that I follow lost this weekend, so I thought everyone's just going to lose. But no, I thought, look, we've beaten Arsenal 3-0 three times this season, and we beat them last season as well. I think it was 4 of the last 5 times. I just thought, look, I know law of averages aren't a thing, but they're eventually going to get a result against us. And when we saw the team sheet and we saw Isak was out, that fear was sort of increased at tenfold. But look, I thought because we got the big win last week, I thought this week was not a free hit for us, but it didn't for me have as much pressure as maybe it seemed, or maybe it could have, because of obviously we had that buffer going into this game. So I think that's how important last week's game was, because we could go to Arsenal. Obviously, yes, we were trying to get the win and secure our UCL spot and get any result, but we didn't have that pressure that if we didn't get a result, it would be taken out of our hands. So I'm still very confident it's in our hands. We're playing at home. Everton have got nothing to play for. They've had their big hurrah at Goodison Park yesterday. They had their big celebration. So you'd hope they'll be 50 points deep by the time Sunday afternoon comes around. And if we can't, I was saying to the lads in the chat yesterday, if we can't beat Everton at home to secure a top 4 or 5 finish, then we don't really deserve to play in the Champions League.
Well, I mean, to be fair to Everton, they are a completely different outfit under the Moisaya than they were to the to Sean Dyche. They've done pretty well since Moyes came in. I think Jack was saying in the chat, they've lost 2 out of the last 8 away and they've won the rest, or something like that. Or they're unbeaten, maybe some sort of stat like that. And I was watching that game yesterday. Jesus Christ, it was nauseating, the amount of discussion about the stand and everything. But anyway, they actually looked all right, I thought, yesterday. I mean, I know they weren't playing a great team, but nonetheless, a lot of their moves looked pretty handy. They've got a bit of pace in that team. And I don't think it's going to be quite the easy game that I'm not saying you, but some people might be thinking, oh, this is quite a good fixture to have at the end of the season. Everton got nothing to play for, but they'll want to win just like everybody else does. You know, the professional outfit. I think we'll have to be very careful with them. We're kind of getting off track here a little bit, but we'll do probably a preview during the week, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The Alexander Isak thing. Did you kind of have any thoughts on that being a thing? It kind of came out of the blue for me, but then I was thinking, have they not sort of been hidden that something was wrong with Alex for from last week, whether I think he was taken off slightly early, and Eddie said that he was feeling tightness or something in his groin?
Tightness, yeah.
When I was reading his comments, he was saying that he trained okay, didn't have any problems, but he stiffened up afterwards, and that's why they went and sent him off for a scan. And he wasn't deemed fit enough to play in this particular game. And Eddie's Eddie. He's keeping his cards close to his chest. So as he did with Botman, it sounded like it was the end of the world for Botman. His season was over, and next thing you know, he's fucking starting. It's like, what was all that about? So we'll have to wait and see how Isak does next week. But for me, that was a bit of a shock not seeing him in the lineup, and it really changed what we could do in this game, I think.
Absolutely, because we don't have many options as it is, and if you're taking Wilson off the bench into the starting 11, and he hasn't exactly set the world on fire since he's come back. I don't think he's scored this season in the Premier League or even in any competition. So it's not really the Callum Wilson of old that comes into the team and you're confident he's going to be in the right spot and nick a goal for you. But it's not just the Wilson that had to start. We had no one else off the bench. We had Asula, but Asula's he's a young player. We can't really rely on him in these sort of big occasions.
It's
I,
too
I
raw.
think he is very raw, and you can just see when he has the ball. He's just running 100 miles an hour, not
Yeah.
really knowing what he's doing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think with Isaac, you could tell he's obviously scored some goals of late, but he hasn't been at his sharpest. And he's obviously been carrying something for a fair while since the cup final. But I think Eddie and the team have made a calculated call this morning to say, look, we've got a game at home next week. Whether we win, lose, or draw against Arsenal, it's all going to be in our hands next week. If the worst happens and we do lose the game, the last thing you need is him to play. He goes off 20 minutes in, and all of a sudden you're looking at Wilson for not only this game but then Wilson next week. So I think they made the right move. That yes, he pulled up sore. He was tight. No need to risk him. It wasn't a do or die game, and obviously next week is, and I'm sure he'll be out there next week and probably give us 60, 70 minutes, and hopefully that'll be enough to get the result. But definitely no need to risk him with a game next week at home to get all the chocolates.
It's always a balancing act, isn't it? In these sort of situations, he could have played Isaac maybe with a few injections. I mean, we don't know the extent of it. You could have said, "Oh, look, just get out there." You could have got injured worse. You could have came off it worse off. You could have done all right. You might have just not touched the ball, like Wilson barely had a sniff, and we might still have lost. And then you've played them 90 minutes when you maybe didn't have to, or 60 minutes when you might have benefited from just being rested ahead of what is, as you say, is still the crucial game that we really do have to get something from, a win ideally next week against Everton. I'll just read out the teams here because there was one or two other things to discuss. But for Arsenal, it was Rhea. God, what a liability that guy is under pressure. Jesus Christ, he was shinning them everywhere. Ben, ironically named White, Saliba, Kiwori, who I think was returning or playing maybe on his second game or something, and he actually looked pretty tidy. Lewis Skelly, Odegaard, Partey, Rice, Saka, Trossard, and Twakatosh Martinelli. And then it was Pope, Shaw, Botman, Byrne, Murphy, Bruno, Tonali, Tino, Barnes, Wilson, and then Gordon. I'm struggling to get my words out here. So at least for us, it was the same setup, I believe, as against Chelsea. So that was effectively a 5-4-1, and you can see it quite clearly when, especially when out of position, the two lines, the two banks of players were pretty well organised. Did a pretty good job on keeping Arsenal out, at least for the first half, and maybe even after they scored in the second half as well. I don't know about you though, but it feels a little bit like he's shoehorning Gordon and Barnes in, just so it feels a bit like he's trying to play all of his last remaining decent players.
Yeah, yeah,
He's trying to like say, "All right, I'm just
yeah,
going to get you all in."
yeah,
And I think maybe a little bit like how he went against the Liverpool in the final in this game, Chelsea as well. It's very much like a blitzkrieg, if you like, from the off. Try and get that early goal, put them under pressure, make them creak. If you can get that goal, and that's obviously the aim, then you have the ability to defend deep, defend for your lives, hit on the break. You've basically done what you need to do. You can try and almost see the game out from early doors in some ways, and obviously nick another one if you can, which is what we did against Chelsea. Got an early one, got a very late one. What do you make of this lineup, and is any of this informed by the lack of Joe Linton? Because I really do feel like he's been a huge miss.
yeah. He has been. He's a mountain of a man and a mountain of a presence in the middle of the park. And I think it just shows that Eddie doesn't trust Longstaff, Willock, and Miley to play in that three-man midfield anymore. And you're right, he wants to get as many of our better players on the pitch as possible in these big games. So he's come up with a formation to get Gordon, Barnes together. Otherwise, you'd be playing only Barnes on one side or Gordon on one side and Murphy on the other, and one of them sits on the bench. So I think it says more about his confidence in the other central midfielders than anything else. Because if he was confident, in my opinion, of Willock was playing like he was 2 seasons ago, or Longy was, or Miley was in top form like he was last season when he was playing every week, he may be less inclined to go to the five at the back, because it's not like we play it all the time. We obviously have done it a few times this season, but I think for us it's been more out of necessity than that's the way he wants to play. And you're right, just get as many good players on the pitch as you can, and hopefully they do the job. And you're right, that blitzkrieg, we try to get that early goal, because we know we haven't got much off the bench. If we don't get that early goal, it's not like we have 2 or 3 or 4 game changers off the bench. So it is unfortunately the nature of the beast at the moment, with the few injuries that we've got. We've got such a thin squad as it is. As soon as you lose 2 or 3 players, then yeah, it becomes very, very thin.
Yeah, and the other kind of outcome for this kind of starting lineup, this starting formation, is that, as you saw today, when he brings on 3 players on the 60th minute to change things up, which was Kraft, Miley, and Osula, amazingly, yeah,
Early.
we're straight back into a 4-3-3, because we don't want to maintain that formation, but I don't think we can with those players on the pitch, with the ones that we've taken off. We might as well talk about the first half then. It was pretty good, really. I mean, the first 20 minutes especially, we were dominant, without actually being able to get the round thing in the rectangle thing. And I was saying on the chat, and I'm by no means a genius by saying this, but like, it's one of those situations where the longer it goes on that you keep having these chances that you don't put away, the more, maybe it's not more likely, because that's not how anything works, but the more the pressure kind of builds on you as a team to try harder even to get that goal. And the longer it goes on, still, the more the nerves start to kind of build, start to come into the game. The mistakes start to creep in. And to some extent, you work so hard at trying to get that goal, and you actually expend an awful lot of energy that, if you were playing slightly different tactics, you might be able to sort of stretch that out over a longer period of time during the game. And I think you can start to see some of the players looking a bit leggy, especially in the second half, where it didn't even look like we left the dressing room. And I wonder sometimes, is that because we went in it so hard, and we haven't necessarily gotten what we wanted, and now we're kind of struggling a little bit to keep up with the pace of the game, with the other teams kind of still got energy in their legs. But that first 20 minutes was amongst some of the best I think I've seen us play lately, certainly. What were the stats again? There was Newcastle had 5 shots on target, I believe it was, and about 10 attempts in the first quarter of the half, 20 minutes, wherever it was. And Arsenal only had that 1 shot on target and about 5 attempts. They had a lot of possession, but the possession's useless unless you're doing something with it. And we were certainly the most threatening in that first period of the first half. It kind of always, as it tends to do in football, it sort of ebbs and flows a little bit during halves, during the game as a whole. And Arsenal came a little bit back into it. I think I remember particularly around about the 35th minute, I was thinking, no, this is a bit of a purple patch for Arsenal. But you would have been happy, I guess, with the way we started this game. And it was just a bit annoying that Raya, who couldn't kick for shit in this game, under the pressure we were putting him on, also happened to be the world's best goalkeeper for a change. And I say for a change, he's had a lot of clean sheets this season. I'm probably being unfair there, but he was making some fantastic saves, and to be fair to the guy. And we just couldn't get the ball in, could we?
Yeah, he did make some good saves, but I think our finishing was very poor. I think that first one from Bruno, that had to be a goal. That was 10 yards out. He's got most of the goal to aim at, and he just did not get anything on it. The Barnes one was a deflected shot. You probably say, yep, that's an unlucky one. The one for me, the move that we did for Tino to set up that strike, that was a wonderful move. It would have been a fantastic goal. But again, Tino, if he hits it either side of Raya, it's a goal. And obviously Tino's a right back. He's not, or he's playing left back now, but he's no striker. So when he's in that position, he doesn't have the composure to finish. But you're right, it was a wonderful start. We were completely dominant. Every time we went forward, we looked like we were going to either create a chance or force their keeper to make a save. And it was getting very frustrating because you're right. You know, in football, you're not going to dominate for 90 minutes, especially when you're playing a good team away from home. They're going to have their moments as well. So when you do have the momentum, you've got to score. And as the half went on and our chances weren't being taken, you just felt, look, they're going to get that one chance, or there's going to be one moment, and they'll take it, and we're going to be left to worry. Oh, what if we took those chances in the first 20 minutes? Because I dare say if we did score in the first 15, 20 minutes, one goal, even two goals, I reckon Arsenal might have just completely caved because they looked very fragile, especially early. I mean, Raya's goal kicks were awful. Their midfield was non existent early. We looked very, very comfortable as I think I've seen us at the Emirates for a very long time. And we just couldn't find that goal. And I mean, you wonder if Isak's in the team, does he take one of those chances? Do one of those chances fall for him? You'd hope even Wilson, but he couldn't. He didn't look like getting close to a chance. You'd hope he would be someone to take those chances. We just could not. You look at the chances that they fell. I mean, they fell to Dan Burn. That was a wonderful save. That off that header.
Yeah.
It fell to Tino Livramento. It fell to Bruno Guimaraes. They're probably three not of our most clinical goal scorers. It's probably the three players you might not think are going to be as sharp as they need to be in the 18-yard box. And yeah, look, we've got no one else to blame but ourselves, because when you spend that much effort, when you have that much dominance and you don't score a goal, it's going to turn the other way.
I mean, it says a lot for how we approach this game that Arsenal were defending very deep and they were putting men behind the ball and crowding out the box, and they were basically just hacking the ball away whenever they could, wherever the ball fell. I mean, that double save, I suppose technically is a double save where he kind of blocks the header or it hits the crossbar. I forget which one it is. He saves it, doesn't he? Yeah, and then the ball sort of just almost just sits there invitingly next to the line for someone just to toe poke it through, but he wafts it away, and there's nobody able to do anything with it after that. Yeah, I was going to ask you about Isak. Any of those situations, do you feel that? Oh well, I mean, obviously, if Isak's in place of Tino, you'd think, yeah, obviously that's going to be more likely a goal because it's Isak and not Tino. One's a fullback, one's a amazing striker. But any of those other scenarios that you can think of where you thought, oh God, if it wasn't Wilson just kind of wasting his time being in the team, if it was Isak, would we've? Do you think we've had better chances of scoring?
Well, even the first one that Wilson laid off for Bruno, I'm not sure whether Isak would have laid that off. When he's got a clear shot in the 18-yard box, he might have turned and he might have got a shot off better than Wilson could have. I think the one where Isak might have been in the right position, I think, was there was a cross. I think that Gordon got to the byline where he flashed the ball across the box, but Wilson just wasn't fast enough to get to the near post.
Yes, yeah, I remember
And
that,
it needed someone to anticipate and someone to have the legs to get there. And obviously Wilson doesn't have the legs anymore or he's not sharp enough to get in that position. You wonder, can Isak get across the front post and flick that home? He can, obviously, absolutely can. And not to mention, every time Isak's played Arsenal the last couple of seasons, he's completely destroyed them. He's looked so dangerous against Arsenal. They haven't known what to do with him. He's made Saliba and Gabriel, when he played, look very amateur, and they've both been probably the premier centre defensive partnership in the Premier League for the last 2 or 3 seasons. So it's obviously an enormous loss, but you just hope that those chances fell to probably someone who was in a little bit more goal scoring touch and could take one of those chances, because we definitely deserved, in my opinion, a goal for all the play and all the dominance we had. We deserved that early goal.
I mean, God help us, really. I know we're touching this already, but if he's not back for the game against Everton, then
Osula.
Oh God, imagine resting your Champions League hopes on Osula. Oh God, he's like a puppy in a pet store, whatever. I don't know. He just yips around the place, doesn't he? He's like full of boundless energy, but like absolutely no skill on the end of it.
Doesn't know what he's doing with the ball, but no one else does either, to be fair.
Yeah, look, let's just move on to the second half then. The first half finishes 0-0. We've made a good fist of it. Apologies, my camera's just decided to turn itself off. We make a good fist of it, and what were you expecting from the second half? Am I right thinking about this? that we haven't really started second halves all that great lately. Am I right
Yeah,
about Brighton, where we kind of did all right in the first half and shit in the second, or was that completely different for the Brighton game? But anyway, what were you expecting coming out of the
yeah.
second half? Did you think we would be, on it again, since we've just
Well,
had the lion's share of this
yeah.
first half?
Generally, we have come out slow in the second half. I mean, last week against Chelsea with the extra man, we all thought we were going to come out second half, Gallagher end and completely wipe Chelsea away. But we started very slow last week and never really got going in the second half. And in the end, needed that late goal to be secure. But I was quite worried at halftime, to be honest, because again, you don't create that many chances at the Emirates against a team who's defensively pretty solid, and you're not going to create those chances again in the second half, especially not the volume. So I was worried that Arsenal were going to get their purple patch of 5, 10, 15 minutes, and the way the football bounces, it might bounce their way, and they might get on the end of it. And the frustrating thing for me was, like you said before, all the hard work and all the effort we put in, and we do have a thin squad and not much off the bench. We put so much effort in that first half, and there was nothing to show for it. And Arsenal had to respond because they were well and truly outplayed in the first half. And I mean, if you saw Arsenal's game last week, they were poor in the first half against Liverpool, and they came out
Yeah.
second half, played much better, and got back from 2-0 to 2-2. So we knew Arsenal were going to come out much better in the second half. We just couldn't react and never really got going. But again, in saying us never really got going, it's not like Arsenal completely played us off the park. It just we couldn't show the same influence and dominance. I thought that, and we didn't threaten them as much as I thought we did in the first 25 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, in the first half, we were finding that inside ball through the midfield like all the time. It was
Yeah,
just a very
yeah,
simple ball, and we found ourselves in acres, and then we could play it down. I think it was predominantly down the left.
yeah,
Well, you were right. I mean, within the first 10 minutes in 10 minutes of the restart, they do take the goal that wins the game. Annoyingly, from our perspective, Gordon's fanning around with it on the wing. Um, I could have done a few things. I feel like when I was watching it live, I was thinking, "Don't what you pissing around with this for? Why you moving backwards? What you playing out here?" And he gets the ball nicked off him by Saka, wasn't it? Who feeds, I
yep,
believe, Odegaard, and then Odegaard
yep,
just from their perspective, it's quite simple. You steal a ball, move it forward, you square it with a bit of pace on the balls, and then Rice is able to kind of waft it into the far corner. Um, and on the replays, it looks like Pope is nowhere near. Like he's sort of saving that spot when the ball's already gone past. Like his position was just not good enough, and the ball was so well struck that there was nothing he could do about it in the end. Anyway, and then from that point onwards, even up to that point as well, it is still very much Arsenal attacking and Newcastle defending deep and trying to keep it out and try and keep that down to a single goal. I want to talk about Gordon just though for a second. So, what did you make of his performance in this game, and maybe since he's came back from his injury or suspension or both, whatever it might be? I actually personally thought, on the whole, he was not that bad in this game, but obviously he was responsible in some ways for that goal that we've just discussed. And there were certainly times where he was chucking himself on the ground like an absolute
yeah.
pork chop. And there were other times when he's running down the wing and then do nothing with it. Um, how do you rate him? What do you think's where is he? Where is he in his head?
Yeah, he definitely is someone I think in need of a an off season because for me mentally he doesn't look right. I'm not
Mm,
sure if that red card right before the final completely ruined his confidence or ruined his mentality, but he just come back. He hasn't been, in my opinion, the same player. He obviously still has the pace and he looks he looks half threatening when he's running at defenders, but then his decision making and his final ball has been awful. And you're right, he's been throwing himself to the floor too much. He's indecisive. He had one moment in the late in the game where he's done the right back. He's cut in. It's sort of opened up for him to shoot to curl the ball into the far corner, and he just plays the ball backwards. So you can
mhm,
tell his confidence is not where it needs to be for someone of his level and his ilk. And yeah, the goal was very sloppy. It was from nothing really. It was he's dribbling the wrong way, which is first of all cardinal sin, and his touch was way too heavy, and that's all it took. It was a nothing moment for us, and it's not like they were threatening us. It's not like they were was a shooting gallery where Popey was making saves here, there, and everywhere. It was from our mistake, and I mean Rice couldn't have hit it any better. It was a great strike, but we gifted them that goal, and that's exactly what they needed early in the half to get their crowd going and to get their players going, and exactly what we didn't need, knowing that off the bench, like I keep saying, we didn't have much coming off the bench to try and change that game. And Gordon, for me, he's someone. If we do have a full team next week, if somehow Isaac's fit and Joe Linton maybe makes a recovery, or I'm not sure who else we could play, but I just can't see Gordon influencing us in a positive way next week. I mean, we've seen his performance against Everton in the past. He does get rattled a little bit playing against them. He got rattled when we played them at Goodison Park the last few times, really. So yeah, his mental state is a little bit concerning at the moment, and clearly he's half the player that he has been for us.
Let me put this to you, because I read a comment from someone on Reddit, I think it was. It made me kind of wonder a little bit. The person who commented said he looks like a person who's trying desperately to perform to win his place back, rather than someone who's just out there trying to play his game.
Yeah,
Like he's trying too hard effectively. Like he's trying to beat the world every time he gets the ball, rather than maybe doing more of the simple things, perhaps maybe thinking outside of how many people do I need to beat here, rather than let me just find this little bit of space and I'll cross it and then set somebody up, hopefully. Do you think it could be any part of that creeping into it?
it could be because he hasn't obviously had. I mean, the last couple of games he started out of necessity, but he hasn't had the chances of late because Barnes has been playing really well, and he took his spot while he was out injured and suspended. So he probably has been itching to get on the pitch, and knowing that every minute he's on the pitch, he's got to try and show that he's ready to start. But you can also over dribble, just overthink everything. And football's a very simple game. You've got to be in the right, in my opinion, the right frame of mind to perform at your best. And as soon as you start overthinking and worrying about the outcome and worrying about, oh, if I don't do this, I won't get my starting spot, or I need to do something here to better Barnes. And as soon as you start overthinking, things don't happen naturally. So he's just got to get out of his own head, which is obviously easier said than done. But I mean, what a game to get out of your head when you play against your former team to get us into the Champions League. It could be a make or break moment for him in his. I mean, it is a big call, this, but it could be a make or break moment for him in his Newcastle career. If he has a great game and stars and sends us to the Champions League, I think at the end of the day, everything will be forgiven for what he's done in the last 3, 4, 5 months in the season. But if he performs another stinker and is one of the reasons why we don't win the game, I think the tune towards Anthony Gordon might change very quickly in the summer, and Newcastle fans might, yeah, I'm not sure. There might be some choice words, let's say, to him and the way he's performed this season, especially.
I mean, personally, I hope not, because I think he's an absolutely fantastic player. He's a huge asset to have in the team, and he's been brilliant this season. Maybe not the whole season, but
The
not
start
many
of the
players are
season.
brilliant. Yeah, the start of the season particularly. But I think the most frustrating thing about it is that it ends up affecting Bonds when we're trying to play in both of them. I thought Bonds did all right in this first half, and then he was kind of nowhere in the second half. I know most of the team was kind of nowhere, but he wasn't making the same runs. He wasn't finding the same space. He wasn't trying to make things happen. And I often feel that that's because we've tried to push one, like maybe Golden to the left, because that's basically the only place you can really play him, it seems, unless you're going to try and use him as a stand-in makeshift striker, which doesn't work. But like that's kind of the only two places you can try him down the right. And I think there was one game this season where he did a fantastic pass
The Arsenal
from the
game
position.
was
Was it the
that
Arsenal
cross.
game?
Yeah, it was that cross for Isaac. Yeah,
Irony. But on the whole, left wing is kind of where he does most of his damage. And if you're going to play him down the left, you can't have Barnes there. So you've got to put Barnes out on the right. But Barnes tends to do most of his best work down the left
yeah, yeah,
as well. So we've kind of got the perfect situation where you've got two excellent left wing options. Like if you want to imagine you want two top quality players in every single
yeah.
position, which is not easy to do in a modern game, but that's usually what you kind of get told. That's what a perfect setup would be. And we've got them there. But then when you try and play them together, it just doesn't seem to work. You know what I mean? And it feels like to me, it's mostly Barnes who ends up losing out. Do you know?
Yeah.
Would you think that was fair?
I agree. I agree. He definitely is not as effective on the right, Barnes. We saw even last year before Murphy got his run and established himself as the right winger. We tried to pigeonhole Barnes into the team because he was a new signing as that right winger, but he's never looked comfortable on the right, and as Gordon doesn't look comfortable on the right either. It's an interesting problem that we've got, but again, the fact that we're just trying to get as many good players into the team at the moment to say, look, let's put them all in, put them all out there, and hopefully they can create something together and interchange their roles. Because obviously Murphy's playing a little bit deeper at the moment as a wing back in this formation, so he's not playing right up top next to the striker. You'd think maybe if we go back to the 4-3-3 next week, that might change, and you might see one of Barnes or Gordon on the bench. But it for me, Barnes has been the better player, obviously, in the last few months. And if push comes to shove next weekend, I do hope that as good as Gordon has been for us over his time here, I do hope we play the man who's in form. And for me, Barnes is the player in form. And if we go to 4-3-3, I'd be starting Barnes at left wing.
No, I think I would agree. And it's not like it's a bad thing to have someone of Gordon's quality sitting on the bench ready
Yeah,
to come on and make a difference with fresh
exactly.
legs. But we are certainly right now a very heavy left wing based team, aren't we? You've got the Joe Linton out there, you've got Willock out there, you've got Barnes, you've got Gordon, and then you've got Murphy on the right hand side, basically trying to do everything. And as you saw today, when you bring on Kraft, and this is mostly because we don't have Trippier down that side. Kraft is a very poor substitution for a Trippier type player because he doesn't make the overlapping runs. When he receives the ball, he's not assured on it. His touches aren't
He's a
as good.
defender. Yeah,
He
he's a
tends to
defender.
go backwards rather than does any clever dinks forward. Crosses aren't as effective. I mean, he is decent enough at the back, but when he's being pushed up on the wing to try and create an overload or an overlap, wherever it might be, he just stops the move dead. And I saw that time and time again yesterday, which is a bit of a shame because we were finding ourselves in decent positions, and then you have like Shaw who ends up coming across to that position to try and just to whip the ball in the box, and it's like, well, I don't really want two defenders outright because as soon as it starts to break,
Yeah,
you
then we're
stop.
screwed. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we huffed and puffed it for the rest of this game. We've talked about 30 minutes about this. I don't know how we've managed it, but we huffed and puffed for the rest of this game. Got nothing. Bit of handbags at times as well, wasn't it? When the
Oh,
tempers
yeah.
were fraying a little bit. And
How's Kai Havertz? I don't know if you remember, but he's the one who elbowed Burn. I reckon it was 3 seasons ago, where I think it was last game or second last game of the season for Chelsea, and he elbowed Burns
did he do it again?
elbowed Burn in the head, and he tried again this morning, and that's why Burn threw the ball at him, because Dan Burn, just like me, has got a very long memory,
Yeah.
and does not forget those sort of thing. And Kai Havertz he's a bit of a mongrel like that. He does throw his elbows when he jumps up and
Yeah.
pretends he's clumsy, but yeah, I did not like seeing Burn get involved there, because the last thing we need is him being sent off and then missing the last game of the season.
Yeah, but it's a shame we didn't show that much effort for the second half as we did at the end there when we're trying to have a little slappy handbag moment,
Handbags.
and my dad's bigger than your dad kind of situation. Anyway, so we lost that game. Is the long and short of it. I'll just pick up the table here because the calculation pretty much is the same going at this before the game as it is afterwards. Really, we still have to win that Everton game, as you mentioned, to secure UCL. We can't get second place now, just on the basis of points. But even if we could get the same points, it would be the goal difference wouldn't allow us to anyway. So that opportunity has now gone. It is tight. Look, I mean, Liverpool obviously secure 83 points, Arsenal 71. The two in third on 66 on goal difference over Chelsea, also on 66. We have 22 goal difference, they have 20. And it may even come down again to how many goals we've scored, which was what was keeping us above them last week as well. So before we beat them. So we've scored 68 goals and they've scored 63. So, it's starting to get down to it might end up getting down to these little fractions here. Then you've got
Yeah.
Villa in fifth, who've squeezed in there. They're on 66 points as well. Their GD is 9, so they are not great on the goal difference front. But it won't make any difference if they win their game and we don't. Man City have 2 games to play. They are in sixth on 65 points, and then Forest on 65 points also. And that's all to play for, isn't it? It is just basically wide open on that table, apart from the top 2, really.
Yeah, it's wild how it's ended like this. I mean, the title was decided a long time ago. The relegation was decided a long time ago. So there hasn't been that much excitement for the neutral in the Premier League, but the Champions League race is obviously completely down to the wire. I mean, there's 5 teams, 5 teams separated by 1 point, really. Uh,
Mad.
you couldn't really make it up at the start of the season saying there's 5 teams going for 3 spots. But I mean, this is where we want to be. If you said at the start of the season that we're going to have a game against Everton at home, where if we win the game, we're going to finish in the top 5 and get Champions League football, you would have thought,
And
I'll
you've won a
grab
cup.
that. I'll take that. And you've won a cup. Not to mention
Yeah.
you've won the cup.
Yeah.
You'd take that in a heartbeat. So it's exactly where we want to be. It's in our hands, and God forbid we weren't in this position and we had to rely on other results. I hate having to watch other games and
Mm.
and worry about what's Aston Villa going to do, what's Forest going to do. It's all down to us. You don't have to worry about watching or worrying about another result. It's all down to our game. And if the nuts and bolts of it is 3 teams jump us, then we're screwed. So it's really, if we match Aston Villa's result, then we're good to go. I think that's the team that we need to watch, in my opinion.
And of course, let's not forget we have Europe confirmed. Whatever happens, we do have the lesser of the competitions, but nonetheless, we do have Europe to play next season. Who knows if we end up with the Europa Conference? Is that what's called, Europa Conference League?
Conference League, yeah.
Yeah. We might even win it. And then we'll be thinking, oh, that was all right, actually. You know what I mean? Play some absolute dog shit teams, had amazing away games, won the thing, not bad. 2 trophies in 2 seasons. I might take that, But obviously, you want the UCL for the attraction of it. I've got this little image here that I nicked from Reddit. I apologize to the person who I stole it from, but I didn't make note of your name. But effectively, this shows the teams in the final positions. We can now forget about Arsenal. They have qualified for the UCL. Then we've got Newcastle in third on 66. We have one final game against Everton, and that will give us the GD that we need, with the win, of course, to get us guaranteed UEFA Champions League. Chelsea have got Forest, so there is maybe still a drama there. It'll be interesting to see how those 2 go. Forest have kind of fallen off a cliff a little bit, but I think they won, didn't they? At
They
the
won this
weekend.
morning, yeah. They did.
Yeah. So that'll be a fascinating game because I don't really rate Chelsea too much at the minute. They squeaked past Man United, didn't they? 1-0 with dog-shite Cucurella scoring. Typical.
Yeah.
Just a slag him off, he goes and wins it. Bastard. And then Villa have got Man United, so that's guaranteed 3 points for Villa, even if it is away. And they got City, who are playing Bournemouth, who could spring a surprise. You never know. And then they've got Fulham away, which also won't be a particularly easy game either. They just won 3-2 against I forget who now, but they were losing at one point and then they came back and they managed to win it. So a good win for them. And then Forest, as I say, have Chelsea at home. It is finely balanced. It's finely balanced. Would you, just let me ask you this, because there's not much else we can say about this, but would you rather be playing a team around us right now, or would you rather be playing the likes of Everton? So, for example, would you prefer playing a Chelsea or a Villa to ensure that win guarantees us, without any kind of shadow of doubt, that we do get UCL because we're playing one of our rivals, or would you rather have it where it's a slightly easier team like you?
No, I'm absolutely happy that we're playing a team that's in mid-table mediocrity and got nothing to play for. And I think the bigger factor for us is our last games at home. Our home, obviously, we've been really good away from home this season as well, but the fact that we can play our last game at home is enormous for us. And I don't pity Chelsea having to go to Forest last game of the season. That's going to be very tough for them. I mean, Villa can probably walk up with their B team and probably beat Man United the way they're going. So
Yeah.
that won't matter for them. But you want to have a home game in the last round with all the marbles on the line. And And look, like we keep saying, it's all down to us. It doesn't really matter what anyone else does. If we win, we're in. Pretty simple.
Absolutely.
So nothing to overcomplicate. We don't have to say, oh, let's keep an eye at the score at Old Trafford. Let's keep an eye at the score at
Well, we're going to be doing that. Let's be honest, but that's what everyone in the stadium and everyone who's watching is going to be constantly looking at the other games, thinking, "Fucking Jesus." Yeah.
As long as the players and Eddie and the coaching staff are not, then who gives a shit, in my opinion. But look, it's a pretty simple focus this week. I mean, the team ethos is winning, you're in. Pretty simple, yeah. So
Yeah.
I even if we were playing, if you reverse the games, I mean, I'll ask you, if you reverse the games we played Everton 2 weeks ago, and you're playing Chelsea this week at home, how do you feel going to the last game playing Chelsea compared to playing Everton?
I mean, I was kind of thinking maybe I would prefer to play the Chelsea type, but you've both got something to play for. So as you've mentioned a few times now, Everton mid-table, their season's done. There might be a few more million on the table. I don't know what their points is.
They can't go up or down.
Right, so they are literally done. They'll want to go on a high, but Pickford, of course, will do his absolute best to ruin it for us. So we have to factor that in. But the home crowd is going to be vital, and because it is against the likes of Everton, and because we can make Pickford the pantomime villain, yeah, I probably would edge it that way. It's just if it gets to like 0-0 on 80th minute, mate, we're
we'll be shitting bricks here.
Oh, it's going to be a nightmare.
But you know what's going to happen?
It'll be the same either team.
You know what's going to happen? It's if it ends up that way, then Osula's going to come off the bench. He's going to dribble 3 and put 1 top bins, and then
no, he's not.
He will.
He's going to balloon it into the dead pigeons on the roof.
And, did you see him play against Birmingham City in the FA Cup third round? He was dominant.
Dominant, right? Okay, against the mighty Birmingham City in League 2 or wherever there's League 1. All right, look, let's wrap this up. The big game is next week. We'll probably do a preview for the game against Everton. Do you want to pick a man of the match, which is a bit tricky for a loss?
Yeah, tough one. No one really stood out. I thought Bruno for me in the first half was fantastic. He looked like he wanted to grab the game by the horns, and he did in the first half, and was probably unlucky he didn't have a goal in the first half. But I think Bruno was, in my opinion, our best player today.
Yeah, I'm going to do a 3-2-1. I'm going to do 3 for Bruno because of that first half as well. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. These inside balls and his little
brilliant
cuts inside, and his vision is just unbelievable when he's on that kind of form. Deserved a goal. I'm going to put Tino as a 2 because I thought Tino was absolutely excellent.
Yep.
And 1 for Declan Rice. All right. 1 for I might give it a Porby. Actually, he made 1 or 2 very.
The first half, his first half state was very good. Yeah.
I might give it a Porby just for keeping the goal difference down, because, as we said, that could be absolutely essential in this final game next week against Everton. Cross everything you want. Cross your balls, cross your fingers, cross your toes, cross your arms, cross your legs, cross your friends, cross your enemies. Maybe don't cross your enemies. And we'll have to see how we go next week. We'll do a preview, as I've said, and we'll be back for the final review of the season, where we hopefully confirm UEFA Champions League. But until then, thanks to everyone who has watched and listened. Please give us a like, subscribe, all that stuff. And if you want to join our Telegram chat, please do. The link should be down in the description somewhere. Come and join us for a Newcastle chat on all things black and white. And thank you to the Streaky Greeky. Are we going to see you in your Dax run down the street, mate? Apparently that was absolutely cast iron guarantee that you said you would do that if Leicester got a point out.
Look, just to clarify, I said Leicester wouldn't beat Forest. That's what Slim was saying. So I said, if they beat Forest, this is what I do. And to be fair, they almost scored at the end to make it 3-2. That was a B stick from being 3-2, and I was getting a little bit antsy because, like I said before, it's balmy 2 degrees at the moment outside. So
Bet you wasn't. Are you getting your cheeks out or what?
Not absolutely not, because I didn't lose the bet.
You absolute dog. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks to everybody. We'll see you for the next one. Cheers.
See ya.